Hey everyone, it's Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. I'm the managing partner and owner of a boutique immigration law firm here in the United States. As y'all know, we help people nationally all over the United States as well as internationally. We help business owners and businesses and managers here in the United States when they are looking to hire someone that's not a U.S. citizen. We make sure that all of their team members who are not U.S. citizens have the right work authorization in place so that they can work, and so that their families can accompany them with the right immigration status. Also, we work with families. It's usually going to be a United States citizen who is looking to get a green card for their aging parent. Their minor child. Minor in the U.S. immigration system is under 21 and unmarried. So if you were 20 and married, you are no longer considered your parent's minor or dependent for immigration purposes. And also those U.S. citizens that are looking to get green cards for their spouses or their fiancés. So I was live last night. I told y'all I would be back this evening as well. I don't think we actually got to all of the questions from last night, but that's okay. So if y'all have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. We are going live tonight on TikTok, Facebook group, and the private Facebook page, as well as the YouTube channel. So I wanted to talk a little bit, super tiny bit, tonight before we get into the questions. I was chatting with a friend of mine, she's another immigration attorney. When we were talking about folks that have moved for whatever reason, they've lost a lot of their documents. That is super hard when we get those files, when we get those cases. Oftentimes then we have to reach out to the immigration service, whichever division of the immigration service, and ask them essentially for a copy of your file. Sometimes they can give it to us, sometimes they can't, sometimes they have it, sometimes they don't. So I'd really urge people to make sure that, one, if you are filing on your own, that you make a copy of everything, an exact copy. Oftentimes when I get folks that call me, we do a consultation. They have started the process on their own, but now they're stuck and they need the help of an immigration lawyer like myself. They don't have documents. They don't have copies of what they sent in. And again, that makes it harder. That causes me to do a lot of guesswork. So I would really urge you that if you're filing on your own or you have been approved, that you keep a copy of all their documents. And, in 2023, not just a paper physical copy, but a digital copy. If that means setting up one email address, like get a Gmail account, get a Hotmail account, they're free, y'all, and just upload those documents to that account. And if that's the only thing you use that account for, log in, I don't know, every 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, however long you need to log in before they cancel the account on you. But that way, if you have an issue later or, or something happens that stalls your application, or heaven forbid you get mugged or you get robbed or your house burns down or whatever, you lose your green card, you lose your passport, you have a copy of it saved. Having copies has saved so many people. It has saved so much time and energy and effort in the long run. So that is my plug. Just make sure that you have copies really of everything, especially copies of everything that you're sending off to the immigration service. Signed copies, like whatever you signed, just make a copy of it before you send it off. That 5 minutes or 10 minutes to make a copy will make a world of difference later on. Let's see here. What do we got for questions? Y'all, I had on black and white yesterday, and that was a little hard to see through. I thought it was the polka dots, but I don't know. I have to look at my settings. Let's see here. For the I-130 green card holders, Applying for spouse and minor child, what is the wait time? Oh, I have no idea. I look up every time my clients ask me for wait times or we affirmatively give them wait times, we look them up. So wait times depend on the type of application and the office that is currently processing your case. So that is 1,001 different combinations based on based on my client base, based on who I'm helping. So I don't know I do not know wait times off the top of my head. Um, it's going to depend on whether or not your family members are considered immediate relatives, if they are considered to be, in one of the preference categories. I have no idea. But you can go to uscis.gov and they publish their processing times online. So you can absolutely go there and get I think they say 80% of the cases are being processed within the timelines that they provide online. So I would suggest that you take a look at their website and see what your specific case type processing times are. What is good moral character for immigration? Well, how much time do you have? Good moral character in a nutshell, y'all. Super, super broad. Means that you're a good person. Means that you're paying your bills, you're paying your child support, you're paying your taxes. You don't have a criminal history. If you have a criminal history, it's super minor. Good moral character is something that the immigration agency looks at when they are adjudicating an application. So they want to know that, is this person that we are about to provide this benefit to, are they out here, not paying their bills, robbing, killing people, selling drugs, that kind of thing. So they do background checks. There are questions on the application that specifically get towards good moral character. So good moral character is making sure that you're a good person. Now, does this mean that if you have a criminal history or, you've had some blips on the radar that you're not going to get approved? Absolutely not. But if that is a concern, then I would urge you to have a conversation with an attorney, an immigration attorney. Let me be clear on that. Let's see here. What else do we have? And y'all are welcome to share this. I would love it if you shared it with your friends who may have questions or may find this helpful. Share it with your colleagues, your work colleagues. Let's see here. What do we have? Questions. Spouse has 4 kids and gets help from the government. Will that pose a problem in her filing for me? I'm assuming you mean filing for a green card. It absolutely could. Depends on what kind of help they're getting. Depends on what the income is. Depends on whether or not they have and or need a joint sponsor. So there are a lot of things that go into whether or not that application will be approved. So yeah, it absolutely could, but it absolutely may not. I don't have nearly enough facts, but it is certainly something that I would have a conversation with an immigration lawyer about, and get very granular and very, very specific. Let's see here. Permanent resident filing for spouse and children. Does the wait time differ if they're in the United States? Yes. The wait time will differ depending on the type of application filed and the office that is processing the application. Whether it is a consulate overseas or whether it is one of the local offices in the US, they all process cases at a slightly different time frame. And that depends on the priority of the cases in their office, the number of people that they have in their office to file the cases, and how that office is prioritizing filing their cases. Some of their cases may be transferred to another office. So yes, my recommendation, if you're looking for processing times, if that individual is in the US, go to USCIS.gov and look at the processing times, and you can drill down into your specific case type and pull that processing time. Any other questions, y'all? Because y'all know what happens. If you've been following me, if you've been on my lives before, if I don't have any questions, then I go make dinner. But legit, I'm actually not going to stay on too late tonight because don't tell anybody, but most of what I've eaten today is half off Halloween candy. So I went and got some half off priced Halloween candy today. So probably not the healthiest choice. Probably, but really good though. Probably not the healthiest choice. Let me see. All right, y'all. I don't see any more questions coming in. I'll stay in for a teeny bit longer. Maybe everybody else is eating half off Halloween candy right now. Maybe that's what's going on here. And I'm not mad at you if that's the case. Let's see here. Can I prove, Sash, can I provide my 3 last 1099 and W-2s to prove my income is sufficient, or should I get the tax? I'm assuming you meant tax transcript. The government's going to want to see your copy of your filed taxes or your tax transcript from the IRS. If you don't know how to get your tax transcript, bit of a tongue twister, you can go into irs.gov and you can request it online. And if you search tax transcript, it might actually be on their homepage, but if you search tax transcript, when you get to the irs.gov page, it'll walk you through it. It's easy peasy and you can do it all online. So yeah, the Immigration Service is absolutely going to want to see either tax transcripts or copies of income tax returns. They will not just accept your 1099s and your W-2s. They will accept your 1099s and W-2s with copies of your taxes, but they will not accept those by themselves. So I hope that's helpful. Hello, I'm waiting on processing for my husband from Nigeria. I'm here in the US. Great. I hope that works out for you. I hope you are able to get him here. My fiance's country suspended all visas and said to send to another country. How hard is it and how long? How long will depend on the number of people and the number of applications that are being processed at that third country consulate. And how hard is it? Really kind of depends on what is happening. So I don't know if you mean how hard is it? How hard is it to get it transferred? How hard is it for that, for your fiance to get to the other country? There's sort of a lot in there that can be hard. But yeah, from time to time, consulates do suspend visa services. And so we've got some countries right now, we've got some consulates right now that have suspended services. So yeah, that's really a consulate question because it really kind of depends on which consulate, and then, choosing a consulate to go to see if we can send your application to a different consulate. So how hard is it? It could be hard, could be not so hard. Just kind of depends on the individual situation and which country we are switching from and which country we are switching to, and where you are in that process. Where are we? Transferred. So if you're trying to, so I can't answer real specific questions, but if you're trying to go from Lebanon to Ecuador, that's really a consult question. So I would click the link in the bio and schedule a consult, and we can really kind of dig in. Because if we're going from when you're sending someone or someone's trying to go from one country to another, there are visa issues. Can that person even get a visa to get into that third country? And then what's the process now in that third country? How far along are we in the application? All sorts of questions that need to be addressed and thought about, and a strategy put into place. So I would say, hopefully, I hope your first of all, despite the process, right? I hope your fiance is safe. That is numero uno. So I hope your fiance is safe. Secondly, in terms of the immigration process, a consult would be your best bet, and that way we could really dig into what's happening. All right. I asked last night if my husband could travel on his work visa, but I didn't know which one. So I don't know what you mean by work visa. What kind of, so when I use that phrase, it is something incredibly specific and with a legal framework around it. Is your husband on an H1B? Is he on an L1A? Is he on an L1B? Is he on an O1? Those allow for travel if he has a visa in his passport. If he is filing for a green card and he has an advance parole, which some people also call a work visa, or allows that is not a work visa, or an EAD, an employment authorization document. An employment authorization document alone does not allow someone to travel. Advance parole, however, does allow someone to travel. So I don't know whether your husband can travel on his work visa. So I would need what kind of work visa does he have? That will help. Okay, now I know. CO9 work visa. Okay, so CO9 is a green card application. That is for employment authorization. That does not allow someone to travel. That is an employment authorization document. In order for him to be able to travel, he needs advance parole. That is something completely different than an EAD application. Let's see here. His appointment was Monday, and everything was suspended, and we were running with time. Truly, that is that's sort of a continuation, y'all. That is a consult question, and I'm a slow scroller. So how long are CR1s taking in Jamaica? I have no idea. I have no idea what processing times are until I look them up. Every single time one of my clients asks me for them, I look them up. But you can look them up online. Although the consults don't really tell us what they're doing, but I don't know if you're asking for the part, the part that you file in the States. For that, you can absolutely look it up on USCIS.gov. I tell people once we get to the consulate phase, give them, processing time could take a couple of months. I'd say anywhere between 3 to 6 months, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. But that's what I tell people to sort of mentally prepare for. And then I get some more sort of on the ground data based on my own cases and based on cases of other friends that are immigration attorneys. So the short answer to your question is I don't know. That's really the short answer to your question. But again, processing times depend on the office and the type of case that is being processed. you're calling on Monday. Good luck. Let us know what happens. Hopefully it is success. We always like to celebrate success here. When do you get I-797C notice for biometrics? Does it mean that USCIS accepted your case? Yes and no. The receipt notice is what tells me that USCIS has accepted the case. The biometrics notice tells me that they are processing your case. So you file a case, you get a receipt notice. After the receipt notice, you get a biometrics notice. That's usually what happens. Sometimes things go a little wonky. It happens. Sometimes you get your biometrics notice first, and then you get your receipt notice, or you never get your receipt notice, but you get your biometrics notice. It means that immigration has your file, and they are doing something with it, which is frankly what we all want. We all want USCIS to process our cases. So that is a good thing. Go and make sure you go to your biometrics appointment. How long more or less after the work permit do they hold on. How long more or less after work permit do they take to work on EDGU? I don't know what EDGU is. I don't know what you're asking. Can I file for my wife and then later file on for my stepdaughters? Yes, depending on the age of your stepdaughters at the time. Yes. And it depends on what your it depends, right? It depends on what your status is. Depends on how old the stepdaughters are. It depends on when you got married. So all those things being aligned and meeting the rules, absolutely. But the big takeaway is that you don't have to file for your children the same time you file for your spouse. That is sort of the big that's the big takeaway here. You just need to make sure that when you file for everyone that you meet the requirements for filing. So assuming you meet the requirements for filing, sure, you do not have to file for everybody at the same time. Let's see here. I don't know what that means. How long more or less after the work permit do they take to work on the status change part? I'm assuming you're talking about a green card application. Totally depends. Completely depends on the type of application. If you have an immediate relative application, could take a couple months, could take a year. If you are in one of the preference categories, it could take several years. Processing times depend on the type of case. The further down you are in the priority categories and the preference categories, the longer it will take to process your case. So I need many more details before I can sort of even give you a realistic time frame. But you can go to the USCIS website and click on processing times and answer the questions, drill down with those drop down menus, and it will get you to a pretty on point processing times. Now, are they always like, is your, let's say you go on to USCIS.gov, you look at the processing times and it says, oh, the processing time for this type of case is 6 months. I don't know that anything on there says 6 months, but let's just say it says 6 months. When your case hits 6 months and a day, that doesn't mean there's a problem. Doesn't mean they've lost it. It just means that you are not within that 80% where it's going to take 6 months, right? The processing times, they tell us, say that 80% of their cases are being processed within these specific processing times. So I would say go to USCIS.gov and they can check that, and you can check that out for yourself. Should I be worried if I filled out my G1145 and sent the packet a week ago and haven't heard back? What is G? I love that y'all are so incredibly specific some days. Okay, that's what I thought it was. So I don't think so. Quite honestly, I wouldn't be too freaked out if it was a week ago. So what was I going to say? Receipt notices can take about 2 weeks. My receipt notices take generally about 2 weeks, unless it's an employment-based case and unless I have filed it using premium processing. Receipt notices can take about 2 weeks. If you filed using if you sent them a check, like one of your checks, see if the check has been cashed. If you filed using a credit card form, see if they've run your credit card. I will say with the credit cards, sometimes the bank flags them as spam or as fraudulent. So if you are paying via credit card, it is imperative that you have something set up with your bank, whether they send you a text or they give you a phone call or they send you an email, if they suspect fraud on your account, because you will need to respond to that immediately so that your bank knows it's not fraudulent and they can release those funds. If the bank does not release the funds and tags it as fraudulent, immigration will send your entire application back to you. I've had it happen. It's not pretty. It's not fun. It's not fun to deal with. So keep that in mind. What's the next step after I submit an RFE for medical for the green card? You wait. That is the next step. So the larger question around what you are asking is the immigration service right now for marriage-based cases, for clean marriage-based cases that have really good documents, and the immigration service is not worried that these are fraudulent marriages. They are processing cases and approving green cards without an interview. So instead of getting an interview notice, you get an approval notice, and then shortly after that, you get your green card in the mail without ever having to go to the local office for an interview. That is a 110% discretionary policy. It is not law. It is a policy. They can start it and stop it at any point. So typically what we are seeing in some of our cases, and when I say we, I mean me and my immigration lawyer friends, sometimes when they only ask for the medical, because you're not required to send the medical in, shortly after that or sometime after that, once you send that medical report in, assuming the medical report is fine, people have been getting approval notices and green cards and not having to be called in for an interview. That, however, is not a guarantee. That is absolutely not a guarantee. They could absolutely call you in for an interview. In 2 more months, they could simply send you your approval notice and your green card. So I don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately, because if I did, I'd be a ton of fun at parties, but I don't have a crystal ball. So it does not mean that you're looking to get an automatic approval. It doesn't mean that it's automatically going to be a denial because it's been 6 months. It just means the immigration service is working. That's all it means. But the fact that you got an RFE, be happy, because that means someone's working on your case. That means your case at some point was on somebody's desk to be worked on, which is frankly what we all want, right? That's what we all want. So I understand that the wait sucks. It is what it is. It is what it is. But your case is actively being worked on if you got an RFE. I don't know. I've got I-45 marriage, and it says currently at 48 days, still actively. I don't know what that means. So I don't scroll back up and then read sort of all of your comments to kind of figure it out. So put it all in one to make it easier. Let's see here. Still waiting on I-765 decision. Could I go ahead and file a 45 for AOS? That seems very much out of order for me. So I don't know why you're filing for an EAD for work authorization and second filing an adjustment of status application. So that seems very out of order for the way that I do my cases. But it could be very much in order. It could just be for a case type that I typically don't handle. So I'm not sure. I don't know about that. Hold on. Applied for Texas the beginning of this year. I-130 was approved. You received your EAD, your social security number, your biometric, but no, what is TD? But no, I don't know what TD is. Tell me what TD is. Yeah, I have no idea what TD is. I figured it was because I sent it to the PO box and I did a money order to avoid all of that. I think that goes back to I filed and it's been 2 weeks, maybe. But here's the deal, y'all. If the instructions are to file at the PO box and you filed at the PO box, then that's fine. That's completely fine. That is not a reason why receipt notices take longer. The very first thing the Immigration Service does is take their money, okay? Whether it is a check or a credit card, that is the first thing they do when they open up a package. They make sure there's a check. They are a fee-based agency, which means they run based off of the filing fees that y'all send in and that I send in for my clients. So that is one of the first things they're going to do is take their money. So, yeah, got my work permit 1 month after I submitted my paperwork in Chicago. Great. That is fantastic. I came in at the age of 4 with a visa. It expired. Now I'm a DACA recipient. Can I do an adjustment of status? Potentially. That is a consult question. I have many, many more questions than I have answers. TD is travel document. Why didn't you get your travel document? I have no idea. They probably separated your travel document so that they could process your EAD quicker, so that you weren't waiting to be able to work. So that is probably a good thing because otherwise you'd be screaming that you didn't have your EAD and you couldn't work. So there, believe it or not, there is sort of a method to the madness with immigration. You want them to prioritize your ability to work versus your ability to travel. And so, especially coming out of the pandemic, they were separating work permits and travel permit applications. They were not issuing what we call a combo card, which is one card that allows you to do both, because one was taking significantly longer than the other. So they didn't necessarily want people waiting on both. So, yeah, you're just going to kind of have to wait. But yeah, I would be elated that I had my employment authorization document. Applied for F1, so student visa, from a J1, which is a training visa, did biometrics, but waiting decision. Is it possible to get an ID as in a driver's license ID? That is very state dependent. Some states will issue driver's licenses to folks that don't have work authorization from USCIS. Other states will not. So that is a completely state-driven decision. So the short answer is I don't know. The longer answer is totally depends on what state you're in. But I would recommend that you look up your states. I call them DMV. Florida calls them DDSs, Department of Motor Vehicles, whatever it's called in the state you're in. They all have websites. Look that up on their website and see what documents you need to provide in order to get a driver's license or a state issued ID. And that should help you kind of figure out that. My dad applied for my brother. Everything approved by NVC. It's been 4 years. Still waiting for an interview. So I don't know if that's normal. I don't know what category. Some cases take longer than that, frankly. So I don't know. I don't know what category is. I don't know if your brother is single. I don't know if he's married. Tons of things. I don't know your father's status. So all of those things will impact the processing time. I have renewed my EAD card next week. Do you think they will make a decision on my case? I'm not quite sure what you mean. So I'm not quite sure what your question is, but it makes me think of this. Just because one thing happens in your case doesn't necessarily mean just let me put it this way. Just because your EAD or just because your advanced parole, your travel document is approved, right? Or you get a biometrics notice, it doesn't necessarily mean that the next phase is going to be that's going to be, processed within like 2 weeks, or the next phase is going to be approval, right? So a lot of you are asking if A then B. And sometimes the answer is truly you're going to have to wait, right? So if you get an RFE that's only for your medical, does that automatically mean you're getting approved without an interview? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Could it happen? Absolutely. Are we excited when it does? Absolutely. Are we surprised if it doesn't? Not really, right? So I don't know if if you file your EAD, if you file your EAD next week, they're going to process it. But immigration processes things first in, first out. So chances are, if you file your EAD card next week, you're not going to get it the week after. The immigration service is not that quick. They're just not. This is a great question. Can a person send in their medical 2 weeks after they send in their green card application? So the question is not can you? The question you should be asking is should you? And I'm going to go with you should not. When you send something to the immigration service that they have not specifically asked you for, it is very difficult to ensure that what you send in makes it into your file. You may have a receipt notice right now, which would be great if you do. But the immigration service hasn't asked for anything, which means they're not expecting anything. And so if they ask for, like if they send an RFE, a request for further evidence, they know that's coming back, right? They have a receipt notice for you. They have the RFE, like they're expecting that back. Now, is the person that actually gets your package from the FedEx guy expecting it? No, but it's expected in the system. So I would say no. What they will generally do is they will send you a notice later that says one of two. I've seen it sort of say kind of one of two things. One is your case is deficient and you didn't send us your medical. You can either send it to us now or you can wait till your interview, right? Up to you what you do with that notice. I've seen other notices that say your case is deficient, we don't have a medical, wait until we either request it or bring it to your interview. So I would really hold on to it. That is my opinion. If you ask 18 other immigration lawyers, they may give you some very different nuanced answer, which all those 18 answers, although nuanced, I would say were absolutely correct and absolutely viable. You can certainly try to send it in. If it never makes it into your file and you get a deficiency notice, that means you're going to have to go pay for new medicals again. Up to you. Up to you. What else do we have? Thank you for sharing the live, Lex. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't see any more questions. So you know what that means? You know that means I'm gonna go make my dinner. I do see somebody over. It looks like they're over on YouTube. I don't see any questions coming from there either. Let's see. Let's see here. 212 waiver arrived at Seattle field office a couple months ago. They have yet to cash my check. Is that normal? I don't know because I don't really handle 212. I don't handle a ton of 212 waivers in my office. So it could be normal. Although, again, one of the first things immigration likes to do is get their money. Can't say that I blame them since they are a fee-based agency. So I don't know. I do not know, but it could be part of their processing. 212s are not what we do. Oh yeah, you're an asylee. Is that? No, different question, different person. Yeah, so I don't know, Elizabeth. Sorry. Generally not in my wheelhouse. Let's see here. All right, y'all, I don't see any more questions, so I am going to go make my dinner. If y'all have any super specific questions, you want to have a consultation with me, you are more than welcome. There is a link in the bio. Feel free to click that link and you can schedule a consultation with me. I'm Carol Williams. I'm an immigration attorney. I used to be a USCIS Adjudications Officer. I used to work up at headquarters in Washington, D.C. I work now with companies and entrepreneurs who are hiring people that are not U.S. citizens. So I make sure that they have the right work authorization in place. I also work with families. Usually that's going to be a United States citizen that is sponsoring their fiance, their spouse, their aging parent, or their child for a green card. And I also, of course, do naturalization applications for my clients. Everyone that is my client, they all started with a consultation so that we could have a conversation, figure out what was going on with them and how my firm could help them. And I have to give a shout out to my team. They are amazing. So if you want to work with me and my team, click the link in the bio. And today's Thursday. I don't know if I'm going live tomorrow night. We'll see. I'm going to sort of play that by ear, so I'm not going to make any promises. But this has been fantastic. As usual, you guys have had some really great questions. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for sharing this out. I appreciate it. I love helping y'all. So we shall chat again soon. Have a lovely evening, y'all. I am going to go make my dinner. Bye-bye.